Hello everybody and welcome to another fly tying session with your host Scott. In this session I'm going to be tying a buzzer pattern that I've called the Pope. It completes the Holy Trinity, as it were, following on from the original fly, the Vicar. A previous video that I tied a famous Scottish buzzer pattern called the Vicar, which then I followed on with one called the Bishop, using a bishop's robes as my inspiration for the colour scheme. Well, this is pretty much the same sort of thing. However, I've used the Pope's robes as inspiration for the colour scheme, and hopefully they will work. If you're having one of those days where you could do with a bit of divine intervention, you should now have the entire team. So, to tie the fly, we're going to be using a Camazan B100 in size 12. You could use the heavier gauge B110 if you prefer, or any other buzzer or shrimp hook of your preferred brand. For the thread, we're going to be using a white uni thread in 8/0. For the rib, I'm going to be using a 0.2mm gold wire. This one's from Amazon. It's a jewellery wire. Very, very cheap. I bought a set of 3 in gold, silver and copper. And for the collar, we're going to be using this uni mylar in gold and silver. We're going to be using the gold side that will be shown, but it will be tied silver side up in order to achieve that. And then for the thorax cover, just to smooth it off, we're going to be using this UV gel polish in white to represent the Pope's white cap. So we'll get started and tie the pattern. First of all, I'm going to come in at the eye with the thread, and we're going to just get the thread started. We're not going to bed the whole hook. It's tied in, with a very similar method to the Bishop, and the Bishop's had quite a few views, which I'm happy to see. I'd love to get some feedback on whether the pattern works. I haven't been able to go out and fish properly for trout for some time now on still waters, because with the way the weather has been, some of the fisheries are closed, and or it would be a waste of time anyway. So we're going to cut off a length. I picked up some silver wire there by accident. I'm just going to get some gold wire ready. I have already tied one of these to see what it looks like, and it looks okay. I've recently joined Ludlow Fly Tying Club, and I did a live show on Zoom with the club, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I was very thankful for the opportunity. So if anybody from the club is watching, thank you all very much. The original video is posted. It was posted by Derek, the club's leader. I've put a link to it in a playlist. So I've just tied in the wire on the side of the hook, and we're just going to guide the wire around as we bed the hook, just to maintain the fly's shape. And we're going to take the thread all the way around the bend. So probably a point where it's midway around the bend, and then we're going to bring the white thread back up again. All the way back up, just to keep the body smooth. And then we're going to take the thread back down again. Probably about 2/3 of the way down. and then bring it back up. And we're going to stop at a point, so we'll leave ourselves enough room for the collar, which is probably going to be about there. We're going to turn the fly upside down. I've found it a lot easier to rib these buzzers doing it this way. I was doing it a different method. And then rib with the gold wire. I think those turns were a little bit too far apart there, so I'm just going to go back to that point there and then we'll try again. Turn the fly the right way up and then tie the wire in. Bring the wire over so it's in line with the shank. There we go, that took a while, must be tough wire that one. Then we're going to take the thread up to the length of the collar that you would like to have. Then we're going to get the uni mylar. Now the uni mylar that we're using is in 1/32 of an inch or gauge 14. This is my favourite size for doing most flies with. I've cut a little bit too much off there, but I'll probably be tying some more flies with it later anyway, so that's not a problem. Tie it in silver side up, like so, and then we're going to do that sort of arrangement with it, a bit like tying a butcher body, so you go down and then back up again and then tie it in. And then we're going to tidy up our thorax and head area. Right, then we'll start building up our thorax. Now you can tie this fly on other size hooks as well. Size 10 would probably be okay. 14, you might get away with the 14 because of the thickness of the wire. If you use a thinner wire, then yes, definitely a 14. But it might just overpower the pattern if you use a thicker wire. So once you've got your thorax built up to the size that you like, whip finish. Trim away your thread close. And then I use a clear, low viscosity UV resin. This is quite important. It needs to be low viscosity because you want to try and accentuate the segments in between the turns of wire. You don't want it to bury the wire. And then I normally just get the thorax shape right first, and then I'll go and do the body afterwards. if there's a slight excess, just scrape it off with a needle. Normally let gravity do the work at this point. Just to get it to go where we want it, to get the right shape. And then hit it with a UV lamp. And then we're going to do the body with the UV resin now. So I normally start at where the fly pattern starts on the shank of the hook, just to try and seal it in there, because if you get any rust underneath this one it will show through. So you want to try and completely seal it off. Just roughly add it on. You'll use the dubbing needle later to finish it off. You want to make sure that the collar is sealed in properly. And then just basically spread it around using your dubbing needle. So I'm just going to take a little bit off because there's a little bit too much on at the moment. And that would probably do it. And then set it with your lamp. Yeah, the segmentation should still be visible there. And then we're just going to put the cap on. Using our white Miley UV nail gel. You can buy it in cheaper brands. These are nearly £10 a bottle, but you can get them for as low as £2.50, which I didn't realise at the time. And you're just going to get the shape right with your dubbing needle. I'll try and be as quick as I can because you can't see a lot from where you are there. Obviously, because the thorax is white, this is an optional stage, the tying, but it does set it off quite nicely. There we are. And then set that. And that should do it. And then at this point I should be able to demonstrate it. Actually, there's enough room for me to do it. You just add a few swipes of this Time to Shine clear nail varnish. Literally one swipe, one swipe, one swipe, and that should do it. And there we are. That one is called the Pope. Thank you all very much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye for now.